Do you have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
Well, hello there and welcome to the latest edition right here of Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Good to have you along, hopefully for the entire 30 minutes. I'm John Scholes, and joining me momentarily, Lior Samfiru, employment lawyer from EmploymentLawyer.ca. I'll tell you how to reach out off the top, as we always do, 1-888-861-4555. The phone number, email is simply ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. And Lior, throughout the show, will make reference to the website pocket.EmploymentLawyer.ca. I want to give you the heads up that that's free. It's anonymous. You'll have access to the severance calculator, which literally, not hyperbole, millions of Canadians have used the severance calculator and has their eyes literally opened up as to what severance should be. But details about that a little later on in the show. Termination of employment, pop quiz, that's going to be the main topic later on too. And we'll try to get some phone calls and emails from one of our live radio shows, which, by the way, you can listen to and partake in right here in the GTA News Talk 1010 Sundays at 1 p.m. Would love to have you join us and pick up that phone and call us at that time. Maybe one of your calls will appear on this show as well. So we got lots to get through here over the next 30 minutes. But Lior, we always start off with the week that was. Case of the day, pal. What's going on with you?
John, great to be here, of course, to talk about employment law. A lot of people watch this show. They stop me on the street. They say, you know what, you said something that really rang true for us, or something that made us realize that we have options. Because not every time when you work, things are going to be smooth. Sometimes there's difficulties, there's problems, there may be roadblocks. Your boss may do something that you don't agree with, or maybe you're threatened with the security of your job. But what to do, what to know? Well, people are telling me that I'm helping them understand that. That's so good. I want you to be informed about your legal rights. We have excellent employment laws. I've said this before, but I can't overemphasize this. We have excellent employment laws, frankly, across this country of ours. Too many people don't know what they are, but by watching the show, you'll know what they are. You'll know what to do if you're faced with a workplace issue. You'll know what to do if you lost your job and what you're owed in that situation. If your job is changed, you name it, we'll touch on this on this show. And of course, if we don't touch on it, if you want to have a private chat with me and my team, easy to do. John did it again already, and he'll do it again. I'll give you my contact information at the office, so you can call and email. So stay tuned for that. But to start us off, a situation that came across my desk where I think there's an important lesson to be learned. I spoke with a lady who had worked for the same employer for over 7 years. Now, she had asked to be considered for a new job. There was a new job available, and she wanted to consider it, to be considered for it. Her employer said, good news, we're going to put you in that new role that you wanted, but there's a little caveat. We need you to resign from your current employment on that Friday, and the Monday we'll hire you back in that new role. Fine, she said, okay, I don't really care too much about that. Let's do that. So she resigned. She continued working on the Monday in the new role, no problem. Fast forward about a year later. Company now says we have to let you go, restructuring, but you are now only a 1-year employee. You're a 1-year employee because you resigned a year ago, so we're going to pay you severance as a 1-year employee. So she's extremely upset because now she's been with the company for over 8 years. She calls me and she really wants to understand that whether or not she in fact limited her seniority by resigning. The answer here is absolutely not. This lady had no break in service. The fact that she submitted a letter of resignation does not change that. Even if there was a bit of a break in service, seniority doesn't start at 0. The company doesn't get to avoid paying your full severance by being creative, by saying, no, you stopped working and then you were rehired, we let you go, you resigned. It doesn't work that way. In most cases, when you're let go, all your time with the company is going to count. For her, she's an 8-year employee. She's going to be owed 10 to 12 months of severance. Company was trying to avoid that. They're not going to be able to. The lesson here for you as well. If the company says that you have less seniority than what you believe that you do, you're probably right. That means you're going to be owed a lot more severance.
Is that break in service? Is there a boundary, a couple weeks, couple days, 6 months, or to your point, how long she was there previously?
So generally speaking, we would look to see whether the break is long in relatively to the overall length of employment. So the the shorter the break is relative to the length of employment, the less likely it is to be a big deal. For example, if you work for a company for 20 years and you've been gone for 6 months at some point, that break is probably so small that it can be disregarded. So in most cases, if you've been gone for a short period of time, but your overall length of employment is significant, that break is just not going to matter.
As I mentioned off the top, guys, you can reach out anytime on radio. Please tune into one of our shows. If you simply go to EmploymentLawyer.ca, you'll have an immediate drop-down menu across the country, but focally here in the GTA, it is going to be News Talk 1010 Sundays at 1 p.m. And beyond that, you want more information, just reach out by that phone, 1-888-861-4555. But Lior, first phone call from the day from one of our radio shows. Someone called in, obviously, left this conversation with us. We're going to talk about it right now.
I have a concern that I might be terminated from my job as a concierge in a condominium. I've worked there 11 years, and I just am trying to plan a little bit. Can you give me a hint as to what kind of termination compensation I might expect?
And how old are you?
61.
Wow, good call.
It's a good call, and it's always good to be proactive with these things. What I mean by that, if you think you're going to be let go, you should know how much you're owed. So you can plan, just like this person, so you're not taken by surprise. The other thing you want to do is make sure that when you know how much you're owed, you're not going to be taken advantage of when the company offers you less than what you're owed. So everyone can find out how much they're owed. We have our severance calculator tool. You've heard me talk about it before. I'll mention it again. You can go to PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca. Our severance calculator tool there is free and anonymous. Let's take this concierge information, let's plug it in there, and let's see how much severance he's owed. So he's a concierge, been there for 11 years, 61 years of age. He's waiting to see what the company offers him, but now he knows that he's owed 12 months severance, as you see on the screen there. That is the real amount. So if he's offered less than that, he knows he's been wrongfully dismissed. If he's offered more than that, he's a happy guy. That's the amount. You can do that yourself.
It's a good amount. It's the age. It makes him more than a month per year of service because he's 61. Right?
Yeah. If he was 61, he's going to be owed more severance than if he was 31. So age is always a big factor in determining how much severance you're owed.
Termination of employment, the pop quiz, it's coming up. He's got to answer everything, not me. We'll get to that after a short break. Lots more Ask a Lawyer is on the way right here on CP24. Stick around.
You have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
Okay, and welcome back to Ask a Lawyer, CP24. John Scholes, along with Lior Samfiru. Again, EmploymentLawyer.ca. Anytime to reach out. Phone call to 1-888-861-4555. Ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. That's the email address. I'm sure we'll use that a little later on in the show. But Lior, it's that time. Termination of employment pop quiz. Let's get right into this. Question number 1. What are the 4 main factors when determining how much severance someone should get?
So keep in mind, severance is not a week per year. It's not 2 weeks per year. There's a number of factors that go into deciding how much severance you're owed. Here are the biggest factors: your age, your position, the length of your employment, and your employability. So obviously, the more employable you are or the less employable you are, it's going to impact your severance. The older you are, the longer you've been there, of course, and the more senior a position you have, the greater the severance. So all those factors go into deciding how much you're owed, and that severance can be as much as 24 months, depending on those factors. So I want people to forget about this nonsense that, well, it's a linear type of equation. A year of severance means, or a year of employment means a week of severance. No, it's not a week per year, 2 weeks per year. It could be several months per year. It could be less, it could be more. So those are the factors that go into it.
All right, pop quiz question number 2. Lior, how long can a temporary layoff last?
Well, that question is actually misleading.
That's right.
Okay, and the reason for that is a temporary layoff actually cannot last because a temporary layoff is not legal in most cases. An employer does not have a right to put you on a temporary layoff, or at least you have the ability to consider that to be a termination of employment. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to sit at home. You don't have to look at your calendar and see, is it legal, is it not? I'm telling you that in most cases, you can say no. By putting me on this temporary layoff, you've terminated my employment. I'm not accepting that. I want my full severance.
The main topic this week, just to go over it again, is termination of employment pop quiz number 3. This is like straight back to law school for Lior. What's the first thing you should be considering when assessing a person's severance?
So when someone comes to me and they're saying, I've been let go, here's my severance, what am I owed? The first thing I want to look at is the person's employment agreement or contract of employment. The reason for that is what some companies do is they stipulate in the employment agreement what they would have to pay you if at some point down the road they let you go. So obviously, if you signed an employment agreement that speaks to that issue, I need to know what it says. Here's the good news. Even in cases where the company has tried to limit your severance in an employment agreement, in most of those cases, probably 80% of them, they haven't done so successfully. Means you're still owed your full severance, as much as 2 years' pay. So no matter what you sign or think that you signed or what you think it does or doesn't do, always give me a call if you lose your job, whether you work for a month or 25 years. We have to have that conversation.
All right, let's get to one more question here in our pop quiz for this show, Lior. So you've decided to open up a claim, file a claim for severance with the Ministry of Labor. Then you watch the show and you go, you know what? I think I'm going to call Lior instead. What happens then?
You may be out of luck, unfortunately. The worst thing you can do when it comes to losing your job is to file a complaint with the Ministry of Labor. And the reason for that, the Ministry of Labor can only help enforce a small portion of your entitlements, only your minimum entitlements. Now, that word minimum is key because you have much greater severance rights and severance entitlements than those minimums. But the Ministry of Labor can only help you with those minimums, and it gets worse than that. By filing that complaint, you're now prevented potentially from pursuing your full entitlements. I'll give you an example. Let's say you work for the company for 3 years and you were let go. You file a complaint with the Ministry of Labor. They may be able to help you get 3 weeks severance. Well, that's your minimum entitlements. Your full entitlements can be 6 months severance, 9 months severance, a lot more. So by filing that complaint, not only are you not going to get the ministry's help, you may be then prevented from actually pursuing your full entitlements. So when it comes to losing your job, you have to call me. You don't like me, call another employment lawyer. But what you cannot do is go to the Ministry of Labor.
As I mentioned earlier on the show, guys, EmploymentLawyer.ca is where you want to go to find a radio station across the country to catch our weekly radio show. Lior and I do a ton of them, take live phone calls. And geographically close to you now here in the GTA, that would be News Talk 1010, Sundays at 1 p.m. Love doing the show. Hope you join us sometime on the phone. And we'll get to phone call number 2 from that radio show right now.
I'm calling on behalf of my friend working in a company, and now she has been put on a performance plan just to monitor her performance and everything. Basically, they just want to let her go, I guess. So she's just wondering what are her entitlements and all those things, like what she can do. But she's still working, though.
So first of all, I'll say is this, is if she doesn't agree with the performance improvement plan, she has to say so. By being silent and just continuing to work, she's accepted it. She's saying to them, you're right, I'm wrong. So if she doesn't agree with it, if she thinks that they're complaining about things that are not legitimate, send an email, tell the company that you don't agree with it. Beyond that, obviously do your job as best as you can. If there's something valid about the performance improvement plan, take the guidance, take the help and the suggestion, and try to implement that. Ultimately, if the company decides to part ways, to let you go because you're on this performance improvement plan, in most cases, they would still owe you your full severance. They don't get to deprive you of your full severance just because they put you on a performance improvement plan. To deprive you of the severance, they would have to show that you almost deliberately were doing a bad job, that you, on purpose you were trying to do a bad job. It's that hard to terminate someone for cause without severance. But don't accept a performance improvement plan, or at least don't be silent in the face of it if you don't agree with it. By telling them why you don't agree with it, by telling them why it's not accurate, you're actually going to make it that much harder for the company to let you go.
Okay, we'll get to some email and yet another phone call in just a moment, but we got to get into a quick break and come back from that. We'll do all of that and so much more. So stay tuned. You're watching Ask a Lawyer here on CP24.
You have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
Welcome back to Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. We still have plenty of time to go. We'll get to another phone call from one of our radio shows right now, Lior, and then follow that up with an email. So let's hear it.
Worked for a company for 25 years. They let me go. They said it was performance. I was going through some stuff at home, and they gave me zero severance. They used the term just cause. They had just cause to let me go. I'm 56, and It's a trucking job.
Listen, I'll tell you this. Yeah, can he be let go because the company may be unhappy with him? Yes, you can be let go, but you have to get paid severance. After 25 years, man, is it going to be difficult for the company to let him go? They'd have to show that he did something so bad that's just equivalent of hitting someone, committing fraud, harassment. Maybe then could they consider letting him go for cause. Otherwise, if they want him gone, they have to pay him his full severance. 25 years is a long, long time. And the longer you work, frankly, the harder it is to let you go for cause because it's assumed that you're doing something right by being there for that long. So we know he's owed severance. There's no way after 25 years he's going to be let go without any severance, even though the company says that they have cause. They don't. So the next question is, well, how much severance does he get? We're going to go back and use our severance calculator. You can find it yourself at PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca. It's free and anonymous. And let's see how much severance he's owed. You see on the screen there, we've put in the information, 56 years of age, been as a truck driver for 25 years. Company says, nah, we're not going to pay you severance. We have performance issues. Except you see that he's owed up to 22 months, 18 to 22 months of severance. That's a lot of severance. That's not something that's debatable. That's not something the company is going to be able to avoid paying. And by the way, same with you. You may be surprised by how much you're owed. That's why we have the severance calculator. Grab your smartphone, your tablet, go to PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca and check it out yourself.
And you know, we've come across this so many times where a lot of, especially in the truck driving industry, a lot of these folks think they're under contract. They think they're contractors even after 25 years. So I don't get severance, right?
I see that with truckers all the time, John. People that believe that truck drivers, that they're owner operators. Guess what? Even if you own your own rig, you are still likely an employee if you work regularly for a company. That means you have the rights of an employee, including the right to get severance if you are let go. Truck drivers happens all the time. I see that. You are an employee, and that severance that you're owed can be as much as 2 years' pay.
All right, let's get into that email. Anytime you want to send one along, even beyond the half hour of the show, you can do so. Ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. Says, I was just fired from my job via text message right after I told my boss about a battle with depression and a temporary health issue. I'm not sure what to do about it.
Yeah, so think about the timing here. I mean, just the timing, what a terrible look for the company. An employee tells you they're suffering from a serious condition, they're dealing with depression, etc. A very big deal. And the response is not, let us know how we can help you. The response is not, we'll accommodate you. The response is, you're gone. Can't do that, okay? Illegal. You can't do that morally, but forget about that for a second. You also cannot do that legally. You cannot be let go because you're sick. You cannot be let go because you're going to need accommodation. You cannot be let go because you're going to need time off work. Those are all illegal things. Company has to accommodate you. Now, if they don't believe you, they may be able to get or ask for a corroboration from a doctor. Do you have a medical condition? They can't ask what the condition is, but they can ask that there is a condition that your job may be impacted. If you're let go because of a medical condition, human rights violation, wrongful dismissal, very, very bad thing. So what does this person do? They call me, okay? I'll get them the compensation that they're owed. The law provides several ways to get compensation here. Don't let a company get away with something like that.
Want to get to another question with our remaining time here in the show. In fact, we're going to go to one of the live stream questions that Lior hosts on YouTube and Facebook as well. You want to take part, you can do so at ST Lawyers. At ST Lawyers is how you find that. That is coming up next right here on Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Stick around.
You have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
Okay, and we're back. Thank you so much for sticking around here on Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Always want to remind you that you can reach Lior and his crew anytime we're not doing the show and beyond. The phone call, 1-888-861-4555, or email works. That is ask@employmentlawyer.ca. Now, just before the break, I did mention live streaming that Lior and a bunch of his other lawyers do as well during the week. Really, really busy, these guys and gals. You want to reach out or at least join that chat on YouTube and Facebook at ST Lawyers. At ST Lawyers is how you do that. Here is the question, Lior, for this week. I was fired after spending 2 years as a temporary worker. They didn't give me any probable cause or reason. What are the laws around terminations and temp workers?
So you have to understand that the law doesn't really care about titles. So the law doesn't care if you call yourself or someone else calls you something. The law is going to look at the reality on the ground. So if you're working somewhere for 2 years, you're not a temporary worker. You're a regular worker. A temporary worker is someone that comes in for a project. So your job is to unload these bins. Once those bins are unloaded, maybe it takes a few days, maybe a few weeks, you're done. That's a temporary worker. But if you're working there, you don't know when your job is going to end. Maybe it's going to be a month, maybe 6 months, maybe never. You're not a temporary worker, which means giving you that title doesn't do anything. So this person, after 2 years, was let go, is owed severance like any other 2-year employee. And depending on their age and the specific job that they were doing, it could be 3 months, it could be 4, 5, or even 6 months of severance. So remember, just because you think you're a temporary worker doesn't mean that you are. Severance could still be owed.
It's like signing 15 contracts in a row. It's null and void at that point, right?
It's null and void, or it's just like calling yourself an independent contractor. If you're not really an independent contractor, having that title is not going to do anything. What matters is always substance over form. If you look like a regular employee, you're an employee.
And that is all we have time for regardless. So thank you so much for joining us here on Ask a Lawyer. You can reach out now that we're done. Again, I'll give you that phone number as we wrap it up, 1-888-861-4555. We always go to ask@employmentlawyer.ca for email. And that website, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca, it's free, it's anonymous. You'll have access to the severance pay calculator. That's a key piece of information. And of course, the radio shows, we play the calls from it every week. And join us here locally in the GTA News Talk, 10:10 Sundays at 1 p.m. Please join us, and we'll catch you next time right here on Ask a Lawyer on CP24.